They were very good for the most part, so good job on those. Hopefully I can get them back to you at least at the end of class or tomorrow for sure. But they were pretty easy to grade, so thank you for that. Okay, today we're going to start to move into 2 sample tests. So they worked very similar to what you had done on the quiz, but the formulas are different, and the problem is going to be a little bit more complicated because there's 2 samples that we're looking at. So there's 2 sets of data that we are comparing. Okay, so the null hypothesis is the statement of equality, which is the same thing. Okay, so in this case, it's going to state that there is no difference between the parameters. I think one of the questions maybe on one of the homework assignments said something about that there's no difference between the means. And a couple people had asked me what that means. It just means that they're equal then. Okay, so that's what we're going to be dealing with. So you're, instead of comparing the sample mean and the population mean, we're comparing 2 samples. Okay, so the possible combinations that you can have for HO and HA, you can have that the mean of the first sample is greater than or equal to the mean of the second sample. And the mean of then the HA would be that the mean of the first is less than the mean of the second. This would be a left-tailed test. Okay, you can have that the mean of the first is less than or equal to the mean of the second, and then HA would then be that the mean of the first is greater than the mean of the second. That would be right-tailed. Okay, or you could have that the mean of the first is equal to the mean of the second, or not equal to. Okay, and that's 2-tailed. So it's not all that different. The statements before were where this side was a number. Okay, so you were like saying the mean is less than or equal to 8 or whatever it was. Here we're comparing the 2 means to each other. Okay, formulas that you'll need and be given. Again, sigma between the samples, or the sample means. So that's why it's like sub x1 bar, x bar of the first sample minus x bar of the second sample is equal to the square root of the first sample standard deviation squared over the sample size plus the second standard deviation squared over the second sample size. So it looks complicated, but you know from these past problems that most of the time, if not always, these 2 things are given to you. So then you would just plug into the formula. Okay, and then Z is going to be x1 bar minus x2 bar. So you're going to subtract the sample means minus mu1 minus mu2 divided by sigma x1 bar minus x2 bar, which you would have already found using this formula. Okay, so you would have calculated this. The nice thing is that this piece of it, let me highlight it for you, that piece of the formula is most often assumed to be 0. Okay, so that's kind of a nice part of that formula, is that if this is just 0, then it's just that over that. Okay, and so that's a lot easier. So for our purposes, you can assume that that's going to be 0. Okay, so the steps, we're going to write HO, HA, alpha, the claim, type of test. Nothing new there. Step 2, you're going to identify X1 bar, sigma 1, N1, X2 bar, sigma 2, N2. Step 3, you're going to calculate sigma for the comparison of your means. So your sample standard deviation between the means. Step 4, you're going to calculate Z using the formula. Then you're going to use the chart to find the area and the p-value. Nothing different here, right? That's the same. Once you calculate Z, we're doing that the same way. And then last, you're going to make a decision. Those were very good on the quiz. Had figured out, when it's there is enough evidence or there's not. So those were really good. Okay. We okay?
Yeah, I just got cut off by the whole.
Oh, sorry.
That's fine. I'm just a confused person.
Okay. Let's do one example together then. So if you flip it over. It says, an advertising executive claims that there's a difference in the mean household income for people who have a Visa card versus people who carry American Express. In a random sample of 110 Visa card holders, the average income was $60,900. In a random survey I don't think this is written in on yours, you can put in 100 American Express card holders, the average income was $64,300. Population standard deviation for Visa is 12,000 and American Express is 15,000. Test the validity of the claim when alpha is 0.05. Okay, so when you read through that, what part tells you that we're going to be doing Z and not T? Because T is coming tomorrow, right? Yeah, good. Okay, so that population standard deviation tells you, okay, we're dealing with the Z test. We'll do T tomorrow. So we need to go through and write our HO and our HA. So you need to go back to the part where it says claims something happens. So the advertising executive claims that there is a difference in the mean income. Okay, so that there is a difference. Which one is that going to be?
HA is the claim.
Good, HA is the claim. So not equal to is going to be the claim, which means equal to, the means are equal to each other is the HO. Questions on that? Okay, so what type of test is this? It's two-tailed. Okay, and then I can start writing down everything that I know from the problem. Okay, so you guys, right now with your group, or with someone around you, you're not in groups, can you find, we'll make Visa that first sample and American Express the second sample here. And so we have the mean of both of them, standard deviation for both of them, and then the sample size for both of them. So read through the problem. See if you can identify those 6 things out of the problem. Okay, when you think you have it, look up in mine, make sure that they match. Any questions?
How come it's 110?
It said 110 Visa card holders. Any other questions? Okay, what's alpha? 0.05. Okay, so now we need to calculate some things. We need to plug into the formula. First, you have to find that standard deviation between the means. And so I'm going to plug in that 12,000 squared divided by 110 plus 15,000, and then take the square root of that. If you want to practice typing it in your calculator, go ahead and get your calculators out and try that. I do think that some of the mistakes that were made on the quizzes, there weren't a lot, but some of the mistakes did come from not typing it in the calculator correctly. So again, when I give you time to practice that, or maybe you're relying too much on your group to do some of the calculations for you while you're working together, you need to make sure that you know how to type it in the calculator, because don't want to get it wrong just because you can't type it in. I got 1,886.56. Okay. Anybody confirm that? Yeah. Okay. Did we try typing it in the calculator?
Yeah, I did something wrong.
Okay. We can check them. Now, if we want to find Z, that would be 60,000. Don't erase it off your calculator. I'll come and check it with you. So 60,900 minus 64,300 minus 0. We're going to assume that the difference in the population means a 0 divided by that standard deviation. Okay, so go ahead and do that. Not in your calculator, no. We're timing this. Don't square that whole thing, first of all. So that when you put parentheses around this, that means you're squaring the whole thing. No, the first one was 110. Okay. No, that's just like the symbol.
It's just an open zero.
That's always the Z, no. When you look it up, we're going to multiply by 2.
Oh, yeah, that's
Right?
right.
Yeah. Anyone else need help in their calculator? Okay. So when you find your Z value, that should round to negative 1.80. Were you able to get that? Okay, now look that up in the table. We need to find the area off the table. 0.0359. Okay, what is my p-value going to be then? 2 times that. Good. Okay, because it is two-tailed, so you have to multiply by 2, so that would be 0.0718. Okay, so now it's a z-test. What do I do with that p-value?
Compare it to alpha.
Compare it to alpha. So compare it back to alpha and say since p is what? Greater than or equal to alpha, we fail to reject. H sub 0. Okay, so now go back, look at your claim. Was the claim H sub 0? So if we failed to reject the one that wasn't the claim, I need to say there's not sufficient evidence. Good. There is not sufficient to indicate that, and then you want to describe the claim, that there is a difference in the mean income between Visa and card holders. Okay, so is there a whole lot different here? The formulas are different. That's it. So you'd have to, and you have to sift through a little bit more information to find those things, but nothing else is different. Okay? We will do t-test tomorrow.